now also have the new fuel line, which means I can finally start up the car for the very first time. Now that the new coolant reservoir is installed, I'm going to use a tool that's been around for quite a while. What it does is it vacuums all the air out of the system. And then once it's all vacuumed down, you put the other end in a jug of coolant. So I have a 5-gallon jug of Dodge coolant. It has a filter on it, which is really nice, so no debris gets in the cooling system. And it works really well because then you don't have to go back and bleed the thermostat, because since it sucks all the air out of the system, it completely fills it all in one shot. It goes together pretty easily. So we have our little things right here. You just have to find one that fits nice and tight, like so. This one's gonna work. So we have, what is that, 42 mil? This right here, you just stick it in there. And that pretty much just tightens it. And as you can see, this has kind of a little filter on it, but I like to rubber band like a coffee filter on it just to filter out a lot more of the debris if you're reusing coolant. I am reusing some coolant in this, that's why it's in a 5-gallon bucket, but you also need to have it in a bucket anyway, so this works properly, because you need enough coolant that it's not gonna run out. Okay, so I have this full thing of coolant, and then I have the coffee filter on the end of this. You just submerge it. Coffee filter might not have been a good idea. I zip tied a bolt to hold that thing on the bottom of the bucket so it didn't float. All I have to do is open this valve right here, and it's gonna start sucking all the air out of the, man, it happens quick too. Actually, I'm gonna put this clamp on really quick. I have the clamp installed now, so let's vacuum the system down. And you can tell once it starts collapsing it, you're pretty close. I just go for a little bit longer, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna close this valve off and then open this one. Now we're gonna close that valve, and this should just fill it up. So I used this coolant bleed tool from Harbor Freight. It didn't work really well. It was going really slow, but I don't know if that's 100% Harbor Freight's fault or if it was a restriction I caused because I put a coffee filter on the end of this. And you may be asking yourself, Dave, why did you put a coffee filter on this for brand new Dodge coolant? Well, that's a good question, because all the brand new Dodges and all the brand new coolant has this nice mud in it. If you don't filter it out, see this? It ends up settling everywhere, and it's not good for stuff. I highly doubt this is good for your car. My Durango Hellcat, 1,200 miles, the whole bottom of the coolant bottle, I had it in the video, was full of this mud. Get 5 gallons of brand new coolant, put it in a brand new pail, filter it with a coffee filter, and you'll be left with quite a bit of mud on there. And that was probably what was causing the restriction, was that mud. But I'm glad that it's not in the cooling system. So we have the cooling system filled up. I ended up halfway through just filling it the normal way and then bleeding it the normal way. It was 1,000 times faster, but if it was good coolant and I could trust it, it might have worked, but I didn't want to take that risk. So we have everything ready to go. I need to get some moly to put in the oil. I also did a oil change on this with 040 mobile, and then I have a reusable oil filter, which is always a plus on these things, because then it just filters out the oil that much better. And it's a lot nicer because there's magnets in the oil filter. Then you can take it apart and see exactly what's going on with your engine as you drive it. And then this oil cooler, I was able to drain that. There wasn't much oil in it, but we have everything drained, ready to go. Everything is now buttoned up. I have oil in it, I have coolant in it, I have fuel, and she should fire right up. But since there is no oil in the oil cooler and it hasn't been running for around 6 months, I want to crank it with no fuel in the system, and then I'll plug in the fuel pump and then we'll fire up. What that noise was, it kind of sounded like a rod knock. It didn't rod knock before, so Let's hook up the fuel and hopefully we're okay. For some reason it's saying the vehicle is not in park when it's showing that it's in park, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I'm going to install the clock spring, the new clock spring, as well as the steering wheel, and hopefully we resolve this issue. Tranny fluid. Oh, I probably should have connected the tranny cooler lines. I forgot the tranny cooler lines. All right, have the trans cooler lines hooked up with the clips in there. Now we should be good to bleed the transmission. Made a little mistake on the transmission when I put the other piece of plastic in here. So I forgot that the transmission control module is in all of this plastic. So it looks kind of, actually not kind of, so it looks like this. There's a processor right here, and this is the transmission control module. And I had this piece of plastic right here that's broken. I removed it. It's a real pain to get out. This is pretty much going to save any Hellcat owner that doesn't want to buy a valve body. So this transmission control module comes with a valve body, and I don't know what it is with Dodge, but they think the valve body, and they don't sell this transmission control module separate. The only module in the car that they don't sell separate, it's almost $4,000. So that's why I'm fixing it instead of buying a brand new one, because if it was like 500 bucks, I'd buy one and then just have it programmed. The issue is I can't program the V6 one that's in the car because it already has a VIN assigned to it. I could send the ECU off to HB Tuners, and I probably could then go and flash the correct TCM on this chip, but for the time being, I really don't want to do that. And there's really nothing else wrong with this. So let's pull that transmission control module off that valve body, and then I'm going to just replace this piece of plastic. So there are two little feet right here, and they go through on the back, and you can see the holes. There's one there, and there's one there. You have to actually grind those off. So just make sure that you get those off and don't do any of the ones for the processor. And then there are some clips. So each one of these right here, you just go and you just push it back after you get those out, and you get all these tabs pushed in with screwdrivers. So there's one here, there's one here, one here, one here, and there's I think there's 6 of them. So then all you do is then you get those tabs, and then you push these back and you lift it up, and then there's also 3 tabs that are clipped onto this. So it's a real pain to get this piece of plastic off good. So I haven't got one off yet. So I'm going to be successful, but it's just kind of irritating that Dodge doesn't sell this one module out of all of the modules that they sell for the car, especially since it's a module that has to be programmed and it's VIN specific. So I think they're all the same, but once they're programmed, they're programmed. So I don't think there's any issues besides that, but this is the one that came out of the transmission. We'll fix it and get it back in, and then we shouldn't have any more issues, because right now it's seeing an issue with the VIN, and then it's not letting me turn it off. So it'll start, it'll run, it goes into gear, but it has a V6 calibration, so it shifts really weird to bleed the transmission. I got the tranny to bleed, but it's just really weird. And then when you go to turn the car off, it says transmission's not in park. So it won't actually go to key off. The engine will shut off, but it just stays and runs. So let's get this all dialed in, and it should go pretty quick. And then we could get everything back together and get fluid in it. And then it should, besides the exhaust, it should actually be able to drive now. I now have the TCM all back together, fixed, ready to go. And hopefully this solves the issue where it won't key off and where it's having some weird transmission issue. So let's put this back on the valve body and hopefully it fixes the problem. And if it does, I didn't have to spend $4,000 for a valve body just for this part right here. The transmission is now all back together and I put enough tranny fluid in for the starting procedure. Since I pulled the valve body, a lot of fluid starts to drain out of the torque converter, plus all of the fluid that's already in the oil galleys for the valve body drains out because you flip it upside down. So you have to restart the procedure. Let's lower this down, and it should be kind of a sign if I could key the car on, start it, turn it off, and then I could turn the car all the way off is what I'm hoping, since now it's the original transmission control module in there. I have to plug the battery back in since it wouldn't turn off. This is the moment of truth. Let's key her on. Okay. I'm gonna go to run. And that didn't have any issues before. Turn the fan off. Oh, it works! Yes! So now we should be good to go. This is awesome. This was, oh my gosh, I'm so happy about this. So now that everything is fine with the transmission, the car starts, and we have bled the supercharger cooling system and the cooling system, all I need to do is connect the mid pipes to the exhaust, and I need to order, I'm probably just gonna end up ordering mid pipes, so I don't have to worry about making some right now because I have the MagnaFlow exhaust. What I'll end up doing is in the next video, I will Cerakote the MagnaFlow exhaust. It looks awesome and I cannot wait to see it in the bronze. Plus, I'll have the mid pipes. I'll Cerakote those as well. I want to do long tube headers, but I really want to leave this thing close to stock. I already have a one-piece drive shaft, but close to stock. So then I could work from there and kind of, you know, I have a lot to do. I need to figure out what front end I'm going to put on it. I need to paint the whole car. I need to figure out if I'm going to convert the rear of the car, if I'm going to go full wide body on it, or if I'm just going to leave it the Magnum style wide body. But I'm going to end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time. I somewhat cleaned the engine bay. I need to still put some dressing on it, but it looks a whole lot better. This stuff was so dusty, grimy, and there's some oil all over because this is the tranny cooler, and then the AC condenser somehow got a bunch of oil on it. So I want to clean all that stuff off. I need to clean up the headlights and actually plug those in. And then once I do the front end, I'll be able to add the airbag sensors to the radiator support. But other than that, we have coolant in the supercharger system bled, and the engine cooling system is bled, good oil pressure. And I really am super excited about the color now that I finally can see it in the sun. It looks so much better outside than it did just with LEDs in the shop. I can't wait till the whole car is painted like that. But besides that, I'm going to finally end the video here because she now runs and she will drive once. Well, she does drive, but I don't have an exhaust on there. It's just open headers, so I don't want to take her on a maiden voyage because those headers are really short and you can burn an exhaust valve doing that. So let's get this thing wrapped up in the next video. Magnum Flow sent me exhaust. I'll be Cerakoting that, putting it on the car. I also ordered some mid pipes, so we'll have all that stuff done. Take her on her first maiden voyage. By then I'll have all the headlights wired and all the stuff in the rear wired as well. And I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do about the hood because the factory hood doesn't fit with the supercharger. So I'm going to end the video here. I'm really excited now that I have the lift back so I can start working on another project, which is going to be my friend's project. I'm going to strip down a police car and then we're going to stick all that stuff in an older Camaro. But I'm really happy that this thing is running and driving. I can't wait to actually be able to start driving this instead of the Ranger, and then I'll be able to drive this, the Ranger and the blue car. But I'm going to end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.